I love flowcharts, hate making flowcharts. I always feel like it's too many. You make a little box, you draw little arrows. It's so slow and annoying. This sounds fun. This sounds exciting.
Okay, I can't put this in production, but you could probably vibe code something you don't hate as a communication tool to your developers who are going to do a safe job of it. Welcome back to Build It Faster. We are your hosts, Mike and Joe, and Josh is not in this one. We do miss him, though. Miss you, Josh. Tragic. He's okay. Hopefully, in a month by the time this gets posted or whatever.
He'll be back. He'll be fine. He'll recover.
Post this next. Anyway. And today we are talking about not just Claude Code, but Mike is using Claude Code, and you might be like, I thought Mike
he's not an engineer.
He's not an engineer. What is he? Yeah. He's a product engineer, all right, or whatever.
That's right.
We're going to come up with a cute name for that.
Yeah.
This conversation, as soon as you brought it up, I was like, man, I've got a fire in me, okay, about this topic, because we're going to talk, non-software engineering applications for these, frankly, general purpose agents. I've got a lot of stuff on transcripts. I've got a lot of stuff. I won't spoil it, okay? Listen to the episode. But so, Mike, could you frame for the audience? You already told me, but could you frame for the audience what prompted this as the topic today?
That's a good question. Well, I recently got access to Claude Code at work, and I pulled down the Codebase or Codebases. There's a few of them, and installed Claude on my work machine, and I fired it up. And immediately, I wasn't sure what to do, right? Because it's not like anyone's expecting me to submit PRs or anything like that. Although it's getting to the point where I'm like, I kind of wonder a little bit.
You can.
What might happen? Yeah. But not yet. The first thing I did was ask questions about some areas of the system that have always kind of been confusing to me. Engineers have explained things to me, but it's just a lot, and they could say, go read this doc or read that doc, and they're very technical. And it's not ever been like something where I could get what I wanted out of, learning from the engineers. Like I'll ask questions, they'll answer them, but it's so deep and the documentation is so technical that what I guess would have needed is like, hey, can you rewrite all of this documentation, but at like a much higher and simpler level for me? And instead, now I'm asking Claude Code, and it's great because not only does it seem to be looking at documentation, that's like in the code base, like readmes and stuff like that, but also the code itself. And I'm able to kind of trace through like different methods, and it's been incredible to me what I've learned in such a short period of time. Again, I'm in no position to be changing any of this stuff at the moment, but it's really interesting to me, and I'm sure, and there are also engineers that I work with that had they heard me even say that statement, like at the moment, they would puke probably immediately at even the thought. But it is interesting to me that I've learned so much so quickly about the code base and about certain systems and how certain things work. I've had stakeholders who've been at the company for 10 years plus explain to me how things work, and I learned pretty quickly like some of that was not right. Some of what they understand to work is more of like a, well, yeah, okay, I guess that's sort of the outcome in most cases, but it's not exactly how the thing works, and I could see how you get confused sometimes. So I feel like I'm going to be much more well equipped to answer certain questions that are asked of me, and I'm ready to learn a lot more about some of these things that are important to me but have always been difficult for me to understand. That's it so far. And I also have a specific use case, like a specific thing that I want to do, which is funny because it's similar to what we've done so far. At least it's adjacent and related, which is like I want to work with transcripts and figure out how to, it's almost like grading a test really, but I want to take a transcript, and with a transcript and with a rubric, I want to basically spit out a score that'll be useful to us in this context. And I would like to make it ultimately a repeatable process that pulls the transcript. So like a call or an interaction happens, the transcript is recorded, the transcript immediately goes to the system, and a score is returned, say maybe to an email address or a Slack message. I think that would be ideal. So like end-to-end automation, all that has to happen is like the conversation or the call happens, and then the score is handed back within, some reasonable time frame. Even like same day or next day would even be reasonable. Not that I expect it to take that long. So some interesting things. And then, of course, I'm interested in maybe one day becoming an engineer myself and pushing code someday. That would be exciting. There's definitely stuff that is even within my wheelhouse. Like if I wanted to go and make copy changes and stuff like that, I can do that. I never have at this job, and even that would raise eyebrows from the engineers as to like, what are you doing in our code base? But we're getting to a point where I'm starting to wonder if that's not gonna start happening. And not just our company, but the way that I think companies in general are pushing for like augmenting their staff, getting people to do more without increasing headcount. I think what would have sounded crazy years ago, like, PMs pushing code, is now maybe more realistic given certain parameters like, code review and tests and things like that, allowing for it if you have the right guardrails in place. So anyway, if that's not enough preamble, let me know if you have any other curiosities. But that's kind of the situation as it is.
I think it's
for me.
I think it's great. I think there's many more threads we could pull on, but I think those are good places to begin this. It's surely going to be a series.
Well, I also am curious. Yeah, absolutely. And before we even dive into one specific topic, I would love to hear more, because you said that I think you've got some folks on your end that are not engineers that have access to similar tooling. And I'm curious about like what use cases am I overlooking right now that could be immediately useful to me? Things that I should start doing tomorrow. Why wasn't I doing it yesterday? Those are the kind of things that, like, you're a PM, you have access to Claude Code now. What should you be doing? What's the kind of value that you can bring to yourself and to your org or your team? I've only named a couple things, like learning and maybe making some kind of skill or tooling for what is probably not the most complex task. What else is out there? I'd love to know.
Yeah, I think that's the thread I want to pull on first. Frankly, is use cases, because we can drill down into how precisely you would realize some of these use cases. But let's talk use cases. Let's go a little broader. So the one use case I was going to say you could also do. You said pushing code yourself. Well, maybe you can draft a very bad job that helps get your point across to the people who will do a good job. You could do a terrible job of vibe coding an interface. Stakeholders could say, I don't hate how I made this look. You don't have to sketch it out anymore. You can just be like, make a website that looks this way. And it's like technically horrendous. Your pixels are all off. It's not using our design system. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I can't put this in production. But you could probably vibe code something you don't hate as a communication tool to your developers who are going to do a safe job of it. Other things that you can do depending on your data controls. I am in I believe, Fortune 500, and we have all kinds of data controls that I have to comply with, so it's a little tougher on my side. I'm trying to build platforms to enable this broadly, but for public data, it's fine. And for your data, you'll maybe have this example. I think he's more technical than he gives himself credit for. But one guy I work with, I hooked him up with Claude Code in just a sandbox account on AWS. And I was like, here is a perfectly safe, isolated, you can't hurt yourself Claude Code that you can run on just dangerously skip permissions. Which is Claude -- dangerously skip permissions, where it doesn't ask you, may I run this? It just does it. Do not turn that on, Mike. You're not ready. You'll regret it. Maybe, probably. But I was like, yeah, here you go. Here's a general purpose agent that can talk to the internet. You have a bunch of not using our data questions for, internet resources. I even hooked you up with it. It has a browser now. Go nuts. And he had it pull down sources from this and this and this, and he's comparing like markets and revenue and you know, what we got. I don't want to give away too much, and going through, you know, the business use cases, like proving out, oh, we could do this. Let's go inspect that market. Let's visualize how it compares from these, you know, regions. Let me, you know, just synthesizing public data with a kind of a semi-autonomous business analyst. It's not perfect. It can't do everything, but he is working on 4 projects at the same time right now, just tearing through public data. So that's very interesting. In your use case, you could ask, may I pretty please have a read-only, Mike, read-only database user?
Okay.
And a read-only to, I don't know if you want to get into the finances, but any data set that you have around our metrics, around our performance, around how this or that went. Read-only user on your Notion API.
That sounds exciting.
Okay.
Sounds exciting.
And then you can tell it, hi, you have all of this access. Go nuts. Go retrieve this. Take this transcript and see, you know, where it applies or whatever. If you give it write access, it can go transcript to Notion.
Right,
by the way.
right. Question. If you get read-only access to, say, a database, like a production database, isn't that still potentially dangerous? Like if I'm reading too hard?
Yes. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that you should communicate directly to the production database. You would talk to your staging database, or I expect, and if you don't, maybe ask him for one, a mirror of it, pre-prod,
replica.
you know, surely. And if not, maybe you can come up with the idea of having a copy of prod that you could bring up
you
to,
know, it's
in
fun.
fact, do a read-only operation on it. Yeah.
I guess without saying to, I don't know what things are sensitive to say, but like, yes, we've done that.
Don't on purpose say stuff I have to clip out. Okay, don't do
that.
that.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah, I just don't know what's cool to say or not. I guess what I would say is like, we absolutely have had a replica of our database. We don't all the time. I think we use it as a performance augment at the right times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have like a staging environment and stuff too, and maybe that's more appropriate.
Talk to your team about what kind of read-only access you might be able to get, and then it can build arbitrary Python scripts and do data science for you. You know, it can generate graphs. It can build all, you know, not perfectly, and you're going to have to finesse it, and there are limits, but like, you can start interrogating the data. It is a general purpose data scientist in, you know, not perfect, but you can use it to that end to some degree.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, like I said, I have access now to the Codebase. Well, I've always had access to the Codebase, but now I have access to Claude Code on the Codebase. And it's cool. There's definitely context lacking without the data. You know, it's hard to maybe say drill into a specific scenario or something and say like, why did this happen? How exactly did we get to this data from here? I also worry, like the scary thing to me is like, I'll ask these questions and I get these pretty verbose answers, and it's fun because I think Claude Code has done a good job for me so far of breaking down. Like I'll say like, how does this general system work? And it'll kind of break down sort of like the key files or something and kind of explain like what each one does. And then I can kind of drill into different individual pieces. But there are a couple things that have fallen short for me. One is like, I get this huge answer, and what I wish I could do almost is like in Notion or in a Google Doc, like I wish I could highlight one piece and comment on it and have just a thread on that one little line in the previous response, and then continue my original conversation. Because instead, if I'm like, okay, you just said a huge thing to me, and I really just have a clarifying question about one little bit of it, then I'm starting to like muddy up what is honestly like a great chain of documentation. So anyway, that's one challenge, is sort of like having what feels like it should be a multi-threaded conversation in a single thread. And then the other challenge is like, bro, I don't know when it's hallucinating. Like I have no idea. So if it tells me something that's completely untrue, I have no way really of like verifying that or knowing. So I feel like I'm learning really quickly, but I may be learning lies really quickly, and I have no way of really knowing. Whereas the engineers who work in the code base and have built things, of course it can lie to them too, but I feel like they're more well equipped to be like, it smells like bullshit. I'm not exactly sure if that's how that works. So those are kind of the two main challenges I've seen so far, just in learning, just in researching using Claude Code on top of the code base.
You might like the VS Code Claude Code extension, which gives you not a straight up in the terminal experience that might be easier for you to highlight, copy, paste. It doesn't have inline like you're asking.
I can still copy paste like fine and stuff like that.
Okay.
And being in the terminal makes me feel real cool. So I'm not sure I'm ready to give that up yet.
Okay, well, okay. So let me address a couple things, because this was the thing that my buddy was running into. Is like, how do I know it's not a hallucination? And this is a big question generally around evaluation. How do you know? Well, how do you know now? Well, right now you're just using really expensive models called humans, right? And they're usually pretty good. All right, PMs have been vibe coding for decades. All right,
Yeah.
on their model,
On people.
okay,
On people. Right.
on people.
Make it look kind of, I don't know if I really like how that looks. Make it better. You know? Yeah, sure.
Right. So okay. Jokes aside, how do you know? Right? How could you possibly know? And a couple techniques.
I guess what you're saying is an engineer could just as easily lie to you or something.
Well, so it's
or
a
accidentally.
bit of it's a bit of a rhetorical point to make, but it's really more about probing what it is to know a thing, right? And right now you can trust them. They are good models. You're humans, all right? And even if they're not, it's on them to fix it, right? You don't actually suffer the consequences.
There's consequences for the humans, yeah,
right. So couple techniques. Number one is to say, "Are you sure?" Literally, you can literally say, "Are you sure?" Right? That's a good one.
Right. And what's the result of that? I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what that does. Like, what are you sure? But for someone listening, like, how does asking "Are you sure" make any difference?
So, one, it will answering a question and inspecting an answer for veracity, right? Truthfulness, correctness. Those are two different operations. All right. And so you now have a second dimension in which you're inspecting the result. So that's kind of the LLM as a judge approach, where you go.
So it's almost like in the first question, it's like I'm like, follow the answer my question set of steps, like recipe. Follow the answer my question recipe. And then when I ask, are you sure? It's like, follow the verify and answer recipe. And it's a different kind of set of steps. It's a different recipe. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Something like that.
You can also ask for different, I think the word is modalities, where instead of just asking, what is this? Thank you for explaining it to me. You can say, draw a diagram. All right, draw this as a diagram for me. And this is asking for it to be presented in a different way.
Whenever I try that, I get the shittiest results. How do I get it to draw a good diagram for me? And you said something about mermaids.
Mermaids.
Tell me more.
Is the plan. What you do is you jump in the water and you ask it to make you mermaid diagrams. A mermaid, a flow chart for how things flow, and sequence diagram is the one you want to ask for to learn about how this system, this system, this system, this system, this one goes to here, and then it checks itself, goes back, reaches out to here, and it's stepwise over time going down. Sequence diagram. And you might be like, great. So I see a bunch of just still looks like ASCII to me. How do I get the beautiful diagram? Well, ask Claude Code, actually, and it'll tell you. But instead of let me Claude Code that for you, it is VS Code. You can install the Mermaid extension and view in the file browser. It'll put Mermaid into a markdown and have like tick, 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 some Mermaid, tick, 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 and then you get a beautifully rendered graph.
I'd imagine there are probably like Mermaid viewer websites that you can just go to.
You could
and
go to
drop
mermaid.live, mermaid.live/editor. You could go to mermaid.live/editor and paste the result in there as well. I believe it's local to you and that you wouldn't be leaking company information. But the ideal would be for you to open the Codebase in VS Code, open a terminal, talk to Claude Code, and then have Claude Code dump markdown files containing Mermaid so that you could view them in your Codebase. And then that would allow you to see diagrams of it and ask it, sequence diagrams
And
is
is Mermaid ever meant to be read? So like I just if you just go to mermaid.live/edit right now, you will see there kind of gives you a sample setup, right? And so you can see a human readable flowchart, and then you see the code. And if you, Joe, are reading a mermaid diagram, are you just looking at the code and like your brain knows how to interpret that as a flowchart now, or are you actually grabbing it and viewing it in some kind of viewer like VS Code or your browser?
I do know enough about Mermaid to draw for you what it would maybe print, but I've
Like
never
you could
once.
translate, but it's not of any utility to you to just read raw
Yeah, the
mermaid
code
code.
itself is useless. The only reason it's
Okay.
awesome is because you can revision diagrams as code, so you can commit them to Git, and you can look at diffs. Is this change appropriate? Let me merge it. And LLMs can speak Mermaid.
Okay, cool. And see, I love flowcharts, hate making flowcharts. I always feel like it's too many. You make a little box, you draw little arrows. It's so fucking slow and annoying. This sounds fun. This sounds exciting.
This is fun and exciting and has its limits, but is pretty awesome. And so for your next flowchart, I challenge you to make Claude Code do it.
Yeah, well, the last thing I was learning about is I would characterize as a long chain of steps. I mean, I guess that's what all programming is, so maybe I'm just saying stupid stuff, but it's a long chain of steps, and there are, I think, things that'll kind of kick you back up further up the chain and restart. Anyway, a flowchart would really, really go a long way as
Dude,
understanding
oh
what's
no.
happening here. And so I think the very next thing I'm probably going to ask is like, okay, all right, all of these paragraphs that I've been reading are cool, but like draw me a mermaid diagram and let's see what I get out of that. I'm curious.
I just saw that you can put Mermaid into Notion, by the way.
And it works.
That's what this says. Notion recently added Mermaid support to their code blocks.
Man,
So
I'm
you
doing
are
the
going to be
face.
the champion of
Holy smokes.
flowcharts as code.
Bro, they're all going to be so excited when I tell
What's
them.
crazy too is if you can do that, they can take your Mermaid flowchart and put it into their Claude Code to have it build the thing you told them to make.
Oh my god. Well, I wonder if there's probably somebody already doing it at work, and I just didn't realize that that's what they're doing. Because I've seen flowcharts, and I'm like, man, you took the time to sit down and make that flowchart. They're totally not, are they? They're definitely.
I made 20
Doing something
flowcharts
much
today,
more efficient.
and they didn't take any time at all. And I
Yeah,
was like,
how
make it
would I-
bluer. I've shared
know
in
I
the
said-
chat, by the way, how to do the Notion thing. I haven't confirmed. I'm not going to check. I don't even care.
It's
if
not that I want
true.
to do the Notion thing right away. It's just if I were looking at a doc that had a mermaid, like a mermaid.
Go to mermaid.live, copy
Chart
the
in it.
mermaid flowchart, go to your Notion, make a code block, and change the language to mermaid, and then paste the mermaid.live example in there.
This is all right. You know what? The one example that came to mind is totally not what they did. These are screenshots. Okay, well, maybe it's still novel to the folks around here. Maybe I can still surprise people. We'll
If
see.
you-
What's exciting
if you
is I
do this-
have my
yeah.
AI guild meeting tomorrow, which I sort of wanted to drop into this conversation a bit because I think it's related. And so, quick detour, if you don't mind.
Please.
I now have an AI guild at work. It started with just engineers. So it was, if in people word language, it started as coding with AI, and now it's broadening to AI. It's just everybody's welcome. We're bringing in, well, not everybody. I'm starting with some select peeps, but it's quite a few select peeps across a lot of the org. And so it's going to be exciting to have a lot of non-engineers in the room learning about using tools, just like we're talking about right now. I hope to have more of these conversations and to be able to help have these conversations. Empower more people to use tools that they never dreamed of using before. And I think this is going to really help me. In fact, since I have a little time tomorrow morning, I think I'm going to try to figure out this, I'm going to try to make a mermaid flowchart. I'm going to try to get into Notion. And if that looks good, I'm going to maybe use some of the time to talk about that. I think that would be a really cool thing to show people because I, again, think flowcharts are a great way to communicate things visually. At least they help me a lot. And man, are we good right now at creating lots and lots of paragraphs of text to explain things that I think could, that could have been an email. It's like, could have been a flowchart. Honestly, a flowchart would have gotten this across in a one pager. So I'm excited. Anyway, sorry for the detour.
That's really cool. And also, I as well am starting an AI guild. We're calling it the.
You got to have
AI.
one. If you don't have one,
well,
you're not cool.
There's branding stuff that I'm trying to pull off where I am actually trying to start gathering use cases and the excited people into the one spot, because I'm talking to like 10 different separate people. That I'm like, let me just put all of you.
There's few people that are hyped, right? You have your what are these people? Are these the early adopters? Early adopters.
Tech enthusiasts, early adopters.
Tech enthusiasts. I feel like we're past tech enthusiast at this point, and we're getting into early adopter territory. I think tech enthusiasts is like you and Josh, and like I'm talking to these guys who are like, oh, these guys are on it, But now it's like now we're getting into early adopters territory, and you're getting a lot of folks coming out of departments, and roles that aren't traditionally very technical, but they're like, dude, I got to get my hands on some of this technology. And I hear you're a guy that's into this stuff. Let's talk, And some of it is like, oh, wow, I'm blown away by what you've done. I wouldn't even have thought of that. That's incredible. Some of it is like, yeah, I don't know that like making the single works for everybody AI document is really the best use of your time right now, but I like your enthusiasm and you should come to the guild, stuff like that. A lot of interesting conversations I've been having lately.
That's exciting. I brought it up because I think I'm going to actually call it AI Guild, because the word guild is such an important bottom-up phrasing, right? Where it's not office hours. You can't call it office hours because that means you are bestowing AI upon the poor souls who decide to attend. AI Guild, that's bottom-up. That's friendly. That's approachable. Okay. It's we own it. In fact, it would be inappropriate for leadership to come in and tell us what the plan is, because this is an interest group.
Interest group is a good way of putting it. I like it as like you're joining a movement, like a
yeah. And movements, you don't join a movement that's coming from the top. You get mandated. All right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there is sort of like a mandate, I think, in many orgs right now to like this sort of adopt or die feeling. This like everybody's got to get on board, everyone's got to start using this stuff, but there's not a lot of direction as to like how to use it. And I think creating a community like this is going to enable us to figure out exactly how to fulfill that mandate of like the company's mandate is generally what I'm hearing from friends and even myself is generally like, we need to use more of this. It's a huge unlock. It's really going to empower the folks that we have. We can do a lot more without increasing headcount in a lot of areas. Okay. But how? What are the specific things we can do? What are the specific problems that people are having? Because it's like AI is a new thing and it's a new it creates a lot of potential for us, but the problems aren't different. Like they're the same problems. So we start there, I think, and then we figure out how to solve many of our problems in new ways. The guild.
I had a huge chat with one of our platform leads that I think I want to probably even repeat a lot of the thinking in this pod, one of these episodes. So we have a couple minutes left. I do want to sneak in, still responding to your one question, right? We're not going to rush this.
Okay.
We're probably going to have multiple episodes on this. How do you avoid hallucination? Are you sure? Use flowcharts. And you can also say a sub-agent to interrogate your assumptions. Use a sub-agent. A sub-agent is a tool call, not unlike read file. But instead of it saying read file and the response being the file contents, its tool call is execute subagent with prompt, and the tool call response is whatever the subagent replies with at the very end. And it has none of the context that you were initially working in. That serves two purposes.
And that's just native? That's just built in?
It's native. I can just say that anytime? It's a tool just like run bash or read file or write file. It's call another one of yourself with a, prompt yourself.
Is that related to, sometimes I ask a question, it's like, I'm thinking, in the meantime, would you like to add a sidebar question onto this? Is that a sub-agent, or is that kind of
slash BTW, I believe,
yeah.
uses sub-agents, but is not
Okay.
the
It's not the sub-agent utility, but it...
if you're using a sub-agent, the sub-agent's final reply back to the main thread, because the main thread is talking to the sub-agent. It goes, hey, sub-agent, I have a question. And it goes, oh, got it, boss. Let me do this with fresh eyes. Here's the answer. And then it gets back to you. Hey, my sub-agent got back to me, and here's what's up. Well, good. That's time, baby. So we're gonna wrap up here. That's how you build it faster. And
That was perfect.
I definitely have a hard hour in me of just ranting about using also try this the next time you have a transcript. Dump the entire thing into Claude Code and ask how it applies to the code base.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, like a transcript of a meeting.
Yes.
Okay. It's funny because you may be thinking that that's what I was talking about when I say transcripts, vaguely talking about the business that I can only say so much about. But it is not about meetings necessarily.
That's funny.
That I'm trying to solve.
If you transcribe your meetings to plan about what to do, you could probably take the transcript and make Claude Code just do it real quick. So we'll get into that next time.
For me, it's about vetting certain interactions external to the company. Yeah.
I love that, and I think we can go deeper in on that, like, concrete use case at the next Build It Faster.
Yeah. All right.